2. Round 2 is only going to last half an hour. Maybe 40 minutes. Not too long, though. Not too long. Or maybe they won't show up and I'll just go to bed. It's a possibility. Hello, computer. How are you today? In other news, my car is clean, finally, for the first time in like a month. It's not as clean as it could be, but I washed the outside, vacuumed the inside, scrubbed the seats of dirt and oil and grime. So now it smells kind of reasonable in here now. So we're just waiting for Gayatri and Daniel. Maybe one will show up, maybe none will show up. I don't know. I do know it's very close to bedtime. Quite close to bedtime. Alright, Daniel's here. What's up, buddy?
Hanging out, chilling.
We've got a good contrast going here.
Oh yeah.
Your background is like you're glowing.
You're in
essentially.
a car?
Yeah.
Nice.
I do this to escape the roommates. I'm also used to it. I used to just strictly do all of my videos out of my car.
Oh, okay. You're kind of breaking up a little bit.
Yeah.
There's this. It says above you, Gary, that your bandwidth is low or something.
It is.
Yeah.
Somehow you're coming in like perfectly clear, which is kind of unusual, being that.
Okay.
Hi.
Hey guys.
Hi guys.
Hey.
We can't see you yet. We just see your name. At least I can't see you yet.
If I can. My video is not actually working. I have to change my phone. That's okay with you guys?
You're just gonna come through audio-wise today?
Yes. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Okay.
Welcome to phase 2 of the day. We had a really long one earlier today. And how are you guys doing? Guy and gal, how are you doing?
Great. A lot of changes lately.
Mm-hmm.
Just working through them, taking one day at a time. Yeah, it's really funny because I feel like I'm going through the most changes that I have in many years. So it kind of does feel exciting. It also kind of feels like challenging.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just
It's
cruising
kind of
through those rough waters.
yeah. It's a lot lately. It does feel like the energies are coming to a little bit of a head for me personally, for us personally, and it kind of gets reflected back with the people as well.
Right. Yeah.
So Gayatri, you've
I
been
concur.
you concur?
Yeah, last few weeks have been kind of very dreamlike, dreary. Things just look and feel very strange. I don't know, just a weird time. I don't really know how to explain it, to be honest with you.
You do security, right, Daniel?
Yeah, patrol.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Well, there we go.
Okay. It's back again.
That was me. I drove to a spot that only has one bar. I think it might be okay. Maybe if that happens a couple times, it won't be the end of the world. But yeah, so your job, so you're not interacting with people too much, right?
I can't hear you. You're breaking up a bit.
You don't interact with people too much, right?
Oh no, I interact with people a lot actually.
Oh really?
It's not like your kind of normal, boring security. It's a little bit different.
I'm gonna see if I can move forward a couple spots and maybe the internet connection. Oh wow. I moved like 1 inch and then it completely gave me like 5 bars.
Yeah, that is better.
Yeah, it's much better. I can hear you clear.
That's very strange. Okay, I'm gonna turn this off.
Maybe all we need in life is just one step, one small step.
Right. Armstrong had it right.
Right.
Okay.
But yeah, I interact with plenty of people. It's residential. It's a bunch of apartment complexes and stuff.
Oh.
I'm always talking to somebody, yeah.
I saw you had a post on Facebook where you were complaining about having to like kick people out of spots or be aggressive with people.
Yeah, it's true, because the rules are over the top and excessive sometimes, and it's like, when you don't have that type of mentality, it's hard to do a job that doesn't match your kind of personality as being an empath. That's
Right.
the only way I can explain it. It's like you have to do the opposite of what you would want to. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very strange. I think we get put into it's bipolar realm, right? Like it's extremes.
Mhm.
And you get put into situations that will challenge you to the max, I think.
Bipolar realm, I love that. Yeah.
And it is like when you come to some awareness, it's interesting because you do get a lot of freedom in that. Like you get internally, you open up a lot, especially if you've, Daniel, you had your near-death experience. Anybody who's... What is this static? Is this coming from... Does anyone know where the static is coming from?
I feel like it's interference.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
think that there's alien spacecraft above you about to abduct you. Actually,
Maybe this alien spacecraft came to boost my signal, but I also have to hear the static at the same time.
are you in a remote area or something?
No, I'm in the housing complex.
Oh, okay. Well, they're not gonna pick you up there. You gotta go drive out a little bit, you know.
They might get detected if I'm too close to houses, right?
Yeah.
That sound wasn't there before I moved forward 2 inches. Maybe I should move forward 2 more inches. Hold on. Let me try driving forward a couple more feet. The aliens are so interested in what Gary's talking about.
If they're not interested, then there's something wrong with them. Then they're not your type of alien, that's for sure.
Right? Okay, did it go away? No?
I think so. Yeah, I don't hear any static anymore.
Is it gone?
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah.
No, it's still there. It doesn't matter. Maybe if I turn the car off completely. Maybe the car's electronics was affecting it. How's this?
Yeah, it's much better.
It might have been the car. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of there. I've had interference, in a lot of the. I've done a lot of shows. I've had people on like many different types of energetic makeups. I've had people from all over the world, and for the most part, I have not had a lot of interference. But sometimes I do. I don't know.
It's good. Yeah. Where are you from, Sophie?
I'm from Singapore, actually.
Oh.
Yeah. It's a crazy tech, just robotic place where you can find a lot of just no life, basically.
No life, he said?
As in, people are just basically very mechanical and they're like blobs. You tell them what to do and they will do exactly that. And it's very animated and yeah, kind of crazy. At least for me.
You said you were just in India, right?
No, I came back.
Were you getting different vibes in India, or are they becoming robotic too?
India, I have to okay. The difference between Singapore and India is definitely very much like America. It's very dense. And it's very much like people are connected to themselves a lot more. But then they have this thing called religion and culture, so it's another trap to like kind of lure them in, and they become very absorbed within that.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes any sense. So
the caste system,
the religion, many religions actually,
Nityananda,
the culture.
Does the caste system, is it still pervasive over there, or is it sort of winded down a little bit?
Not at all. Absolutely, it's still pretty much there, especially in South India. People kill each other literally for marrying out of the caste. Like the families kill the children. So there's a lot of hate crimes and divisions. It's still pretty much there.
It's so ingrained into like their collective consciousness. It's like it might take a few more generations to get out of that mindset. It seems
absolutely.
Like, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a lot better in North India versus South India.
Okay.
But it's still pretty much there, like in rural areas. Yeah, like I think a caste crime, like a hate crime, happens like every day in India. It's pretty bad.
I guess
And
our
now
I
we
guess
have,
the American counterpart would be what, like J Dubs and Morbins or something. Like what would be the American counterpart?
I'm unaware of American politics, but yeah, you guys can help me.
Politics.
You mean like our own version of a caste system?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I think just
Economics.
the yeah economics, the class system. I think is the closest comparison. You know, working
Yeah.
class, middle class, upper class.
Right.
Well, I don't know if there's much of a middle class left, but
Nope.
let's just call it working class and upper class.
I think most are. We keep talking about how America is like a third world country now. It feels almost like that. It feels like the whole
Oh,
country is running on a giant bubble, and the bubble is called debt.
I've been to probably like 35 states or so, and I definitely have seen places that look really, really bad. And I've seen places that look incredibly good. So there's contrast, but
Hmm.
there's like areas in like New Mexico and where else, like Louisiana, that definitely look third world for sure.
wow. No, I never thought that.
Oh yeah, no, for definitely. Um,
There was somebody that was a couple was traveling across the states. I forget the name of their series, but they were making this series about that very idea, and they were alluding to that it was kind of like a ghost country as they were driving through it and attempting to document the view that you don't get on news media because news media doesn't tell anything. So like if something was happening on the interior, unless we have some person uploading a video, then we wouldn't even know about it. Like the communication networks are so controlled that I don't even know if we would know about it.
yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we don't know. That's the creepy part about this creepy duality realm. It's like kind of makes you shiver a little bit. It's like, how do we really know what's going on?
You
I
don't.
guess we have to be connected to ourselves and
Yeah, for
just
sure.
know, just know certain things happening.
Guy3, how have you been coming along in your path since you first came across me? I know you've had a lot of shifts, right?
Um, yes, I've changed a lot, and I've become more psychic. Not to scare you guys,
Yeah.
but yeah, like I used to be very, very clairvoyant. I used to have like really acute visions and like intuition, and it kind of went away a little bit in the middle because I was involved in like this, you could say like an alien love fight situation,
Mm-hmm.
and it really took away my power. And I feel like I've reclaimed all of what I've lost.
Mm.
um and and also just for me it's all about my emotions. I realized that I was like on the most really just connected to the spiritual realm, and I forgot how to live my life in the 3D realm. Like that was
Mm-hmm.
the biggest challenge for me. Like for me, my biggest challenge is to walk up to somebody and say, "Hey, how are you doing? Like, how was your day going?" I would never do that before. I would just like it would just be like four walls around me in my room, and I thought that was life. Like, okay, like spirituality is life, but that was another trap in itself. And I realized that you have to come out of it, and being grounded in the 3D is actually more important than anything.
It's
And
what it's
like
what we have
having a
here.
stable life, like career, that's going to balance out our core traumas, and then after that we can actually implement spirituality as like a cherry on the top. But then it's not the other way around, and it took me like, yeah, like a year to understand and realize and incorporate and implement basically.
Mm-hmm. I was having a conversation with my brother after the first session today, and he was talking about how he did that thing that we do sometimes where you're aware of the spiritual world and you're aware of the extra dimensions, whereas here's, what we call the 3D world, and you feel that pull
Right.
on you. But then he was saying I was living always in that while I was walking around in 3D land, and I eventually realized that I have to be here while I'm here. You can't just
Absolutely.
be in spirit land while you're in the mortal flesh. It doesn't work exactly like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
And I used to think. I mean, I used to actually look down on people who are like extremely practical and pragmatic,
Mm-hmm.
and they just got their shit together. I was like, you're just avoiding yourself, like, because you're just avoiding the truth and you're just living in the practical reality. But then I realized that that's not true. I mean, yeah, like they avoid in a lot of ways, but they've got it together. Like if they're going to be in a situation where there is imminent danger, they know how to handle themselves versus me, who's like
Mm-hmm.
always anxious in the spiritual world. I'm always correlating everything to spirituality, and you know what I mean. And then I realized that there's so much we can learn from people who are not spiritual in reality, like the coping mechanisms, how they deal with themselves. And then we have also the awareness, of this, interdimensional reality. So I guess it's a plus and plus. We learn different things from different people. There is no such thing as this person is not aware or that person is not aware. They're just unaware or aware on different levels. I
Mm-hmm.
just came to realize that.
I've come to a similar realization that every encounter you have is important and unique in its own way, and you have to kind of treat it as such, whether it's a spiritual person or not. There's a reason why it's happening. Every person you encounter, every interaction you have.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I wanted to ask, can you remind me what an alien love bite is? Because I kind of
Um.
forgot.
Okay.
I know it's
Well.
complicated.
Well. Okay. Gary, you're aware of this? I'm sure you are.
Yeah, I've heard. I know. I think Eve came up with it, right? Eve Lorgan.
Eve
Yeah,
Lorgan.
I know what that
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
From what I
Yeah.
understand, it's this thing that it's like even Lauda talks about it. It's the thing that the whole soulmate idea, the twin flame
Twin.
idea, all of those things are essentially weaponized, and sort of the empty black hole vessels come to the empaths in order to feed, and they present themselves as your other half essentially.
Mhm.
Oh, I see.
It actually predates on this idea that one person is codependent and another person is like a counterfeit, um, narcissistic personality that comes to feed off of these empaths. But what's really interesting is that these counterfeits don't even know that they're being used to, kind of use against these empaths. They have no idea, but they just do what they do naturally to like kind of deflect their responsibilities. And I think Loda recently uploaded a video and she talks about this idea where essentially if you're hooked into a relationship like this, in the end you become exactly as the narcissistic person that your partner was. And then it's like a soul killing force mechanism basically. It's the whole idea behind it.
Like if the love bite attack were to succeed, you're saying it would essentially empty you
Like,
as much as possible.
yes, like, because an abuser, I mean, if you're abused you become the abuser, so it predates on this idea. And also, um the longer you hook on to this relationship, the deeper you go in, the deeper you're sucked in, because it's like a psychic technology that is intercepted in these relationships. And the reason why we are being pulled to these people is because we share core wounds So essentially, the connection is just that we share core wounds, and once we basically transmute those and get over it, like not get over it exactly, but heal those, we won't be connected to those people anymore, like narcissistic people or people who would actually feed off of our energies. We would actually sense them from a mile away. So this is the whole concept that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And this pattern can be cyclical throughout lifetimes, I'm assuming, not just one life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the whole core idea is, I mean, according to Loda, and I feel like I relate to her work a lot. She talks about this lifetime is the end all be all. I don't know. It sounds scary, but it's there is no more lifetimes after this, and this is it. And it's like the Ender's Game, basically. Do you relate to this, Gary and Daniel?
Go ahead, Daniel.
Go ahead, Gary.
No, go ahead. That's fine.
Not really. I definitely agree with her that we're transitioning into a completely, the way she puts it, is a new verse, and absolutely. Perhaps we're transitioning into a completely new form of reality, way of being, way of thinking. It's not going to be the old patterns anymore. So it's even, I would say that it's even more beyond than just the end of an age. It's beyond the star cycle. We're going now beyond the original star cycle into something what we perceive as new, maybe.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, it's open to interpretations. Yeah.
Well,
Gayatri, we'll talk about the new Earth and things like that. I'm still kind of on the edge about what that even means. I'm still not really sure, to be honest.
I think the end all be all thing is volatile wording of it, because at a certain point, if you as the being are having any control over your life, then if you want to go into end all be all and poof yourself back to the void, then go ahead and do that. Like it's like the dude Brian Tate that says he's God, that you guys may or not be aware of, but he says if he kills himself, then the whole universe ends for everybody. That's what he says, and that's just like, it's a strange thing. It's a strange thing to think, but he believes it, and for him, if he does that, he doesn't know whether he killed everybody because he's not around to see it. It's a silly concept to talk about.
Right.
Well, are you familiar with Bashar?
Mm-hmm.
Channeled by Daryl Anka.
Yep, I've listened to Bashar.
That each and every person is in their own personal, individual universe.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is It's hard to wrap your mind around that, but it's interesting.
The ghosts are voicing their opinion. I can hear them.
Yeah, I hear something in the background.
Sure. We could probably get the people, the nerds that like they decode audio. We could probably get someone to find some language in there.
The Ghostbusters should come here and then help us out with these.
Yeah, definitely.
Overlapping audios.
Yeah. I know for me personally, the way that life presents itself to me now as compared to before is 1,000 times % different than it was earlier, and it's more personal for me, and personal in the sense that everyone that is sharing my personal space is the same energetic. It's not personal as in I'm the only one that exists now. It's personal in that the whole group mind thing or the whole like world thing is not going on as much. It's more like a scene that populates itself as I move through the space, rather than like me moving through this structure.
Yeah, I understand.
I do.
I mean, I'm just...
Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead, bro.
No, go ahead.
No, Gary, I'm actually curious how you were before compared to now. Like, I'm just really, really curious. Like, how different were you?
I mean, before I was just fully in the sort of like avatar thing. You know, like where if you were to go into a video game and be a character where you fully believe that you were that character and nothing else. Like I was in that. I didn't know anything else besides that. And
Right.
you know, I had lots of insecurities and I had goals and aspirations and this and that. And now I don't really have insecurities. There are some, but there aren't very many. And you know, now I can talk in front of every single person. I don't have any social anxiety. Now I have power. Before I didn't have power. Now, you know, I'm interdimensional and I can utilize language in an interdimensional fashion when I speak, whereas before I didn't even know that was a thing. Now I have freedom. I have freedom of movement. Like before, when you're still in the construct, you think like, oh, there's this entity over me, or there's this governmental body over me, or there's this family hierarchy over me. And now I don't have any of that, and it's just simply me and my own internal moral
exactly
set.
What you mean.
Yeah.
I've been kind of going through the same process. Kind of feel like I'm moving through time and more in the present moment. And I definitely have a lot less insecurities and less social anxiety as well.
Mm-hmm.
And more introspective than I was even before. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. And you become more empathetic towards others as well. Like I become more compassionate towards other people's positions, and it's mainly because I remembered back to, you know, you could say I remember incarnations, but it's not exactly like that. It's like tapping into this vast amounts of information, like vast, so big you can't even comprehend it, and it flows through the language, and it flows through every single interaction you have with everybody.
Right.
Exactly. I was just
That's yeah. Go ahead.
No, go
ahead. The interdimensional way of talking. I feel like that's the most favorite thing that I like about Gary. I've never seen anyone do that actually. The way you play with language, just I love it. Yeah.
It was one of the gifts I came out with. I was talking with my brother earlier today, like my battle with the ancient AI, I guess you could call it. I went through the grinder with some entity that was trying to entrain me, and I had to go through like infinite amounts of movements to evade, in a sense, and I retained a lot of those sort of patternings or memories that interweave themselves into my speech, and it's just what it is now, whereas before I didn't have that.
Excuse me, guys, I'll be back in just a second, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I'll be right back.
Can you see us, Gayatri?
Yeah, I can see you very clearly, Gary. Okay. I'm sorry. Next time I'll show my face.
It's okay.
It's more fun.
Yeah, it's more fun seeing people. But yeah, I don't know. It's been I've changed so much. It's not even possible to think really back to what it was like. I can conceptualize what it was like, but I can't really place myself in that feeling space anymore.
You can't even remember that, like, you know, right? Like, you can't even remember that was this person.
Not really, yeah. Not really.
Yeah.
Your free meeting will end in 10 minutes. So I started this particular session with the intent to not go over the free meeting because I do have work and I have to get up at like 4:30 tomorrow morning. So we're gonna we're gonna go for another 10 minutes and then we'll sign off and I'll go to bed.
Absolutely.
I'm back.
Daniel, we're gonna be done in 10 minutes. I just wanted to let you know beforehand because I have to go to bed fairly
Sure.
early today. Um,
Okay. Yeah.
but continuing on the topic of language, so if it can give you guys a little bit better understanding of like how I am now, it kind of started with the idea of meditation, and I followed a lot of the sort of masters, and I learned that it's your speech is pure if you are not extending out into the past and the future. If you're staying present and you allow something to come out, then it comes out in the interdimensional fashion. If you try to plan a speech and say something, then it's coming out like 2D. It comes out flat.
Right.
It's distorted, maybe. It's
Inverted and distorted.
inverted and non-natural, maybe. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of a few different
Well,
words.
it's like lying. It's really what it is. It's lying. Like the
Yeah.
and the reason it's lying is because you are talking about something that can't be talked about. The world and the life itself literally cannot actually be talked about. But if you stay present while you're allowing words to come up out of your mouth, then it's the closest approximation you can get to, the thing you're actually trying to describe. Whereas if you sit there and plan it out, you're removing yourself from the purity of what you're trying to describe.
I think
And
that's
also, it's because it's part of your conditioning, and the conditioning in itself is the lie,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's not anymore.
Right.
I think that's one of the key components of evolving as a soul is to evolve towards being in the present moment, like you just said. And if the speech is done in the present moment, then you're that much closer to making real progress.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound?
Someone's phone.
Hello? Oh.
Yeah, you guys.
Who's calling? Who has a cell phone? My cell phone's not going off.
It's my work, Gary. I turned it on by accident,
Okay.
and then I didn't realize that it was.
I was kind
just
of
let it
I was
ring.
kind of hoping it was going to be some mystery.
It is a psychic mystery. I don't know what is.
Thanks.
What? You have to tap in.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's kind of like it's almost a letdown in the sense that when you fully come into yourself, like the mystery is gone in a sense, and there are no more boogie monsters to jump out at you, but you're also like fully at peace and you have power, whereas before you're at the whimsy of like the elements pushing you around and fears pushing you around and so on.
Well, there might be boogeymen still around, but we just are not aware of them yet.
Or we just don't care.
Yeah, or
Like,
we
you
just
can do
don't
whatever
care.
you- Yeah.
They're
You do whatever
they're
you
still
wanna
around.
do. Like,
They're still
you're
around.
powerless.
They're definitely around, and we can engage. Like you can go into, we could go to the mosque or whatever, wherever the Kabbalah is located, and probably feel some energies coming off that rock. But we don't have to do that.
Yeah.
You can engage in anything that that's what the freedom is. But then when you come out of when you're going through cycles of self-awareness and you're coming back to the 0 point or the center, then you have more options of movement than you did when you were not remembering what's going on. You have a wider leeway of movement possibility.
Yeah.
I have a question, Gary. Like, this might be a little personal, but I guess it's okay, right?
Yeah, it's nothing is personal for me anymore. Well, some things, maybe like 2 things.
So, like, how do you view romantic relationships when you were not aware to when you're aware now? Like, how do you view them? How is it sharing yourself with a partner?
Now it's like a 1,000% respect and paying attention to nuance, whereas before it still involved concepts like love and trust and boundaries. And yes, those things can still be applied. I'm not saying those aren't important. I'm just saying like when you come like Andrea and I, we have that thing that I'm saying where it's like you don't need to describe it or you don't need to do anything with it, but it's extreme attendance to super details of how the other person's feeling, and if the other person's feeling anything off, then you kind of immediately feel that too, and then you work on that. Whereas the former type of relationship is kind of like you're bandying about fear conceptions. So you're like, oh, where is this going to happen? When is this going to happen? Are we going to move on to the next stage of our relationship? Or how is our family perceiving us? Or when's marriage coming? Or like any of those things are not involved now whatsoever.
It's beautiful.
And we also said like no labels, no, you know, it's very
Yeah, I
different.
mean, it's very crazy because there are people who are not aware, and then they use these no labels as a way to avoid commitment and like just to, you know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
just to deflect responsibilities off
Mm-hmm.
of themselves. But what you're saying is coming from a place of awareness and just love. You know, it doesn't have to be a label. Like, we're just genuinely there for each other, and I love that.
The word love is in some instances an overused label, though. You can argue that. I mean,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, it's almost like we like we allow in the possibility that we might not see each other the next day, or you know something might happen that we don't, and that's it's a it sort of makes you appreciate each other rather than like we are together and you know that's what it is, and we're gonna fight for that even if nothing's trying to take us apart. It's like you're preparing for something that isn't there. The mindset now is more like we appreciate the time we have together, and we also appreciate the fact that something may happen to separate us.
Well, anything could happen at any moment, really.
Yeah,
Right.
and there's
So,
nothing you can do about it. Like there are things that you can't do anything about,
there are,
obviously.
yeah, of course. Yeah.
But it has we talk about the love bite thing or the twin flame thing, and it's just like it's just you know it's just a tool to just a talking point for psychics and you know people trying to sell shit. It has nothing to do with relationships. Real relationships are just what they are, and they only have to involve the two people in it, and they don't have to involve others at all if you don't want it to.
Mhm.
We're coming up on less than a minute, so and I gotta go to bed. Excuse me. But thank you, Gayatri, for coming on. We'll be able to see your face next time, hopefully.
Of course, it's my honor to be here. Really.
And Daniel, thank you as well.
Oh, thank you for
Nice meeting you, Daniel.
Yeah, you as well. Thank you.
Her name isn't Sophia, it's Gayatri.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
Sophia is an angel name that came to me when I was about 4 years old. A lot of people call me that actually, so just interchangeable my names.
Yeah. You'll see her next time. If you want to see what she looks like, just look up Gayatri Snail. It's Gaythri Snail Show.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Sure.
Yep. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next week, hopefully, and take care.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Take care soon. Have a nice day.
You too. Bye. Okay, we done. What do we call this? To B. There we go. like if this thing actually worked.